All right, guys. So yesterday you took notes on the bricks and the 6 different ways of elaboration that we look at with expository writing. Today you're going to kind of apply those, or not kind of, you are going to see if you can find those in the I Have a Dream speech by Martin Luther King. So we're just looking at part 1 and part 2 for today. So what I want you to do is for part 1, I want you to go through and see if you can find an example of key figurative language and an example of sensory details. In part 2, you're going to see if you can find a beneficial example and a research quote, fact, or statistic. Now, I already went through and identified the ones that aren't in this part. So there's no incident or anecdotes in this speech in part 1 or part 2. So I have that labeled as not found in this part. He also does not challenge the reader in part 1 either. So this is not there. You have the examples that I found already for each one. So for a beneficial example, he says, still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. I also have the part for a research quote or statistic for part 1, where he says, 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today, signed the Emancipation Proclamation. So that's like a fact that he had. Lincoln, 50 years ago, Emancipation Proclamation, that all ends up there. For key figurative language, actually, no, for challenging the reader. Typically, we think of challenging the reader as something that would be a question. He doesn't use it that way in this speech, but he does give them like an insistence. I want you to go do this. I'm giving you a challenge. So he has the go back to Mississippi, go back to Alabama, go back to South Carolina. So I have that as challenging the reader. Then for our key figurative language, he's got the part where he talks about the justice rolling down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. We talked about how that's a simile there. And then for sensory details, that's sweltering heat, the autumn of freedom. So adding in that sensory there as well. So like I said, you're going to find examples for those other ones from the different parts of the speech. You can just copy and paste them onto here and then just put which paragraph it is in parentheses after your quote. All right, let me know if you have any questions.